Shin Godzilla is filled with unsettling and even horrific scenes that leave a lasting impact on viewers long after the film has ended. Whether that's pools of blood raining from Godzilla's spine, his blood vomit, or whether it's the haunting images of a city on fire, or if it's Shin Goji's googly eyes themselves. Shin Godzilla was the closest the series had come to a full horror since the original. But did you know the directors Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi originally had something more sinister planned? That paints a more disturbing image of what Godzilla was really capable of. So let's take a look at the scene from Shin Godzilla that was so disgusting it had to be cut. Some might remember our video from a few years back which went over the theory that Shin Godzilla would keep evolving through various forms before becoming the ultimate being, engulfing the universe, essentially becoming God incarnate. But what I'm about to show you comes not from a theory, concept art or rumor. This is a filmed scene that was to be included in Shin Godzilla that was deleted for potentially being too gory. It further dives into the concept of evolution and what this creature was willing to do to survive, whether that's intentionally or if it was a physical survival mechanism shifting and contorting its body against its will. We see Godzilla evolve through several forms throughout the film, initially an aquatic tadpole, followed by a newt-like monster as it began to walk on land, and then the big boy that stomps through the streets of Tokyo, adapting all sorts of defense mechanisms like its deadly atomic breath, which shoots from its mouth, spines, and even tail. And the final evolution came in the form of smaller humanoid Godzillas that began to spring from its tail, reaching for the sky, fighting for survival. This was a disturbing image, and one that has horrifying implications for what the world would have looked like had the military been unsuccessful with their mission. But this isn't the scene this video is based around. Instead, we have to go a bit further back to the night after Godzilla's rampage. We cut to a survey team investigating the scene, kitted out in protective gear to shield them from the surrounding radiation, their flashlights illuminating the rubble of collapsed buildings. They slowly make their way through the wreckage before something drops down from above. The surveyors jolt and look down at what made the noise, and the sight disturbs them to their core. They see a putrid, gelatinous blob smacked against the concrete, covered in blood and flesh, with sharp teeth growing from the skin, with putrid round eyes growing out of the blob like a cancer. This is horrifying enough, but when the team look up at where it came from, they see more of the disgusting creatures growing out of the building, spreading like a fungus, looking down upon the surveyors with a frightening curiosity. This scene is horrifying and would have really pushed the film even further into that horror territory. But what exactly is going on here? Well, after the military engaged with Godzilla, parts of his flesh fell from his body onto the buildings below. Since Shin Godzilla is all about the monster evolving to combat mankind's weaponry, what we see is that even Godzilla's flesh is alive and fighting for survival, living even when disconnected from the main host. This act is called mitosis, the process by which a cell replicates its chromosomes and then segregates them, producing two identical nuclei in preparation for cell division. The development of eyes and teeth implies that the pieces of tissue are in fact evolving themselves and will eventually become another Godzilla. Even this blob has consciousness. We see in the concept art what this flesh would become, with it growing until it becomes an entirely new Godzilla head. With enough time, there would be multiple Godzillas flattening cities, growing and becoming even more powerful. So imagine Godzilla is but one cell, and that cell is to split off, reproducing until it completely engulfs the host, of which being our planet. The ultimate defense mechanism. Whenever it was hurt, it would only spread and become stronger, Think about how many of these eldritch horrors are scattered throughout the city, dropped off following military bombardments. It's like something from a Lovecraftian horror book. Humanity's demise would be all but inevitable. But why was it cut? Well, there are a few reasons. Toho may have thought the sight of this thing would be too much for general audiences and would put people off from wanting to see something so disgusting. Although what's more likely is that Toho simply didn't believe this was something they wanted to be associated with Godzilla, and that what Godzilla truly was being pushed to the point of unrecognizability. Reportedly, they stated, it challenged what they thought Godzilla was. It also takes away from the twist at the end, with the next evolution of Godzilla splitting off and creating multiple smaller Godzillas, taking the form of the most dangerous creature on the planet, humankind. Godzilla's tissues being alive and evolving creates even more problems. Since the film ends with Godzilla freezing, what happens to these other specimens? It puts humanity in a scenario where we'd have absolutely no chance at survival, faced against impossible odds. So pulling back on the mitosis elements helped round up the story, putting a bow on the ending that previously would have left many questions unanswered. This wouldn't be the first time this kind of disgusting imagery was explored, since Hideaki Anno's 1995 film Neon Genesis Evangelion has this vomit-inducing sight, which looks very similar to the horrors we almost saw in Shin Godzilla. I personally would have loved to see this in the film. This kind of horror really appeals to me, the kind of disgusting body horror you can find in films like The Thing and The Fly, and the terrifying implications have endless potential. Godzilla has been going for 70 years with 38 films, so experiments like this are welcomed. But I know this scene has had mixed opinions online, with the general consensus being, what am I looking at? Which I can understand. It's absolutely a shock to the staple of Godzilla, questioning everything we know about the King of the Monsters. But what do you think of this horrifying scene? Let us know in the comment section down below. Give this video a like, or else this Goji blob is coming for you tonight. Subscribe and stomp the notification button to become a resident of DangerVille today. I've been Alistair, and we'll see you residents in the next one.